We are Jane and Stephanie from Tipperary Studies here in Rossmore Community Centre collecting stories from the locals for Heritage Week 2025.
This is Stephanie here with Billy Maher from Goolds Cross, talking about train stations and the rail line from Goolds Cross to Thurles. And so I have some information there on your lap about the railway. Do you want to tell us what you have?
But sure, I have a lot of documents. My main interest would be the Goolds Cross, the Cashel branch line, railway line, opened in 1904, closed in 1954. But it was in the minds of the Great Southern and Western Railway back in the 1840s to bring a line down the country, a main line from Dublin, and its destination was to be Cashel. So it was. I have the report, the original McNeill report, and it's called the Dublin to Cashel Railway. And basically, that came along. It started in the 1840s. It came as far as Ballybrophy about 1846, and there was a delay. Then it came to Thurles in 1848. But in the meantime, Lord Hawarden, who was lived in Dundrum, where Dundrum House Hotel is now, he wanted a railway near his own premises that he could use the transport, and he owned a lot of land from Thurles really to Limerick Junction in general area, so he gave them right of way over his land at little or no cost. So that changed the direction of the railway at the time, and it went around, and Cashel didn't get the railway. The original thought process in it afterward was that where Limerick Junction is now on the main Dublin-Cork railway line was going to be in Holy Cross. You know, that was just the thinking at the time, and you go from Holy Cross across the country to Limerick. But none of that happened. It came on, and the train came to Goolds Cross. There was a station at Goolds Cross, a station at Dundrum and Limerick Junction, and onwards in later years to Cork. So Cashel was left without a railway. But it didn't stop the people in Cashel wanting a railway. And it was the 3rd of March 1848, the railway line opened and the railway station opened in Goolds Cross. So from that until 1904 they waited, and there was a priest in Cashel, a Dean Kinane, and he had fought, how would you say?
Tooth and nail.
Yeah, tooth and nail to get a railway, and he succeeded. And the Cashel, there was a lot of reports came out, and that was called different things: the Goolds Cross and Cashel Light Railway, the Goolds Cross Cashel Tramway, the Great Southern, the Cashel Extension Railway. In all the reports, that as it was being planned, it got different titles.
Yeah.
But overall, locally, it was the Cashel branch, it was called by all the railwaymen in Goolds Cross. And
So how many miles of track are you talking?
5 3/4 miles.
Oh.
5 3/4 miles, and I think it was built for 40 or 50,000. You know what I mean? Now, there was one real big expense. It was a bridge over the River Shore. It was a 3-span bridge. Now, you know, the River Shore is a big river. It was called the Red Bridge, and there was another little bridge over the River Aragla in Cashel. They were the two real big expense in building it. It was fairly level all the way, so there was no like cutting through hills or that. Like, it went on then. The late 1800s, 1898 up to 1900, and that the engineers and surveyors that were out finding a route for the line, a proper route, and buying up the land. I have all the paperwork for that here on my lap, as you can see. But what's lovely about that paperwork is you have the names of every person that the line came in contact with. It's in history. It's written down, and it's lovely to have. It was built then. A very good friend of mine, Peter Meskel, Peter's grandmother was at the turning of the first sod of the railway about in beginning of 1903, and it started then. It was built. Ardmail had a little station from 1907. It was on the branch, you know, about 3.5 miles from Goolds Cross, 3.5 miles. But that's where the railway started building. That's where the engineer's house was built. There was a gate crossing there, and then they had a works yard, and they went in both directions. And it opened on the 4th of December 1904. I think it was the 4th of December 1904. It was inspected by a man who had a great name, Colonel John von Donop of the English Army. He was a railway engineer. It was a very busy line for many years. My grandfather worked on it, my father worked on it, Gormans worked on it, Rhines. Then it went, as I say, it opened in 1904 and went to Cashel. In 1907, they opened a little station in Ardmail. There was about 6 station masters in Ardmail. They were called station masters. Even the crossing keeper, they were called to. He was a station master for a little station, very small little station. Basically ran until 1954. Carried never any accidents or anything like that on it, nothing like that, but carried large amounts of cattle from the fairs in Cashel. They'd come out to Goolds Cross, the train would be remade into a bigger train and onto the North Wall and exported. It brought an awful lot of stuff from the creamery in Ardmail. There was a creamery in Ardmail, and that was one of the reasons they got the little station. And in later years, actually, I have paperwork from it, they tried to get a siding down into the creamery rather than bringing the stuff up half mile up the road, you know what I mean? Because there was grain going down there and there was milk coming out and butter coming out. Finest butter in Ireland was made in Ardmail. Finest cream in Ireland. Ardmail were famous for exporting their cream to the top hotels in London. About 3 days a week, a lorry would come up, maybe 20 cans of cream, and that would be put on the train at Goolds Cross, taken to the North Wall and across, and the next morning that would be being delivered around the top hotels in London. It was in great demand.
And would farmers from this area in Rossmore, would they have
No.
gone to...
They wouldn't go to Ardmail. Ardmail from here. Ardmail is in the parish of Boherlan. Goolds Cross is in the parish of Clonotty Rossmore. But the farmers in Goolds Cross and right up into Balloch even, towards Balloch, not the whole way in, they went to Ardmail Creamery. It was the nearest, I suppose. You had Clogher Creamery in Clonotty, but that would be a little bit further, you know what I mean? And possibly, I don't know back then, I wouldn't know much about farming, but they were probably tied into a certain company or a certain creamery to go to, I remember when I was young, the creamery bringing up the churns and we'd always get up putting up the empty ones. They were light, but the lads putting out all the churns, they'd be only left there for a little while and it never went sour. It was different stuff, there was nothing done to it. No refrigeration, and it was well liked. And you had an awful lot of the likes of cement for building back then and stuff like that going in on trains and coming out. Train loads of stuff. Then Cashel became famous for excursion trains, especially on Sundays. And you could have an excursion from Dublin coming down with room for 500 people, but to be 650 on the train. And I have that documented from the Railway Record Society. The records are there, the numbers. And the world of people coming from Cashel out to hurling matches. Lovely way to get to hurling match in Thurles, Templemore, wherever you were going. And Ardmail was a little single platform. Ardmail was about 20 feet long, and you could have 100 people waiting there for a train, to go to a match. Other than that, it would be quite like normal service during the day. But in the 30s, there was 6 trains each way every day, and 4 of them would run Goolds Cross to Cashel, and then every now and then one would go the whole way from Cashel, and you wouldn't have to get off in Goolds Cross to go to Thurles. You could go to Thurles, turn around there and come back to Cashel,
Lovely photograph there on your laptop.
That was taken in Cashel Station. I would say probably, there isn't a date on it, I would say probably in the 1940s. And that's the staff in Cashel Railway Station. I have most of their names. I know that man at the end is Dowling, but most of them are Cashel people. The Arnolds, Davy Ryan, he was the driver. He was a famous man. Davy Fagg, they called him. He was a driver on that engine. But that's what it is, the engine standing in, and that is the canopy in Cashel Station. They're the stands.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's Cashel Station. Whoever took the photograph is on the platform. They're on the train sitting there waiting to go out. It's a steam engine, yeah. That would be number 47, I think, or no, 78. Yeah, there was a few of them the same.
Did people get good money for it? Will they see the value of the land?
They did, yeah. They got the value of the land. It's in some of the documents there. It tells you. I don't know if it would be value or not. It tells you how much they bought from them in acre. Now you see, they might be only buying a little strip of land, like the railway line. For a single railway line, say if you had 20, 25 feet of a strip going through, you just had to have the. But what I did notice about that, I did an article from those for the Boherlan Journal a few years ago, over 2 years, because there's an awful lot in it. I did the first year from Goolds Cross to the river crossing in Ardmale, and the second year from the river crossing into Cashel to the station. The station in Cashel was out on the Camas Road. It was a textile factory later. And it was only in the 1980s something happened. I don't know, but the old station was always there, tucked in a corner behind the factory, and the platform was there. And it went on fire one night. It was a big loss. It was a galvanised building. The only bit of the railway remaining. A very good friend of mine, he's chairman of the Ardmale Heritage Society, Niall Tuohy, lives in the engineer's house in Ardmale, and he has it beautiful. And it's a little few extensions, but all in being. But there were galvanised houses, an awful lot, and they were brought second-hand from Bray. The railway had gone through Bray and successful, and they were building proper brick houses. I took these down and brought them down there on a temporary basis, and some stayed. The gate crossing in Ardmale, the last people to work the gate crossing in Ardmale were forestals. And a very good friend of mine, Morris, was the last of the forestals. And when he passed on, that was the end really of the railway in Ardmale, and the house was knocked afterwards. It was a pity, and there's a new house on the site. But look, progress, things go on.
Well, thank you, Billy. That was great.
Oh, thanks, Billy. Go.
So that brings our conversation to a close. To everyone listening, thank you for joining us and helping us keep these stories alive through your interest and support. A huge thank you from us to the Rossmore community, whose generosity in sharing their time and knowledge made this possible. Your willingness to share your memories enriches us all. We are also deeply grateful to the Tipperary County Council Heritage Office for funding this project. Again, thank you for listening, and until next time, Slán a Gaibh go léir.